Greetings, I'm Professor K, and in this short video presentation, we're going to see how we go about configuring NIC teaming on a Windows server. For this lab, we'll be using VirtualBox, and we'll need to add a second adapter using the VirtualBox settings for whatever virtual machine we will be configuring NIC teaming for. In this case, I'm just going to choose one that I have currently not running. And now it doesn't make any difference what type of machine that you're going to use to add the second NIC to. The procedure is always the same. So let's right click on my 2006 Forest root. I'm going to go to Settings. Once I'm up in Settings, I'm going to click on Network. Now you'll notice that I currently have adapter 1 configured with the checkbox enabled for network adapter, and it's using the host only adapter. And the name of the VirtualBox adapter that it's using is Host Only Ethernet Adapter. I'm going to create an additional identical second adapter just by clicking on the tab that is marked Adapter 2. I will check the box, I will pull this down, and then I will select Host Only Adapter, and now I have my identical second network adapter set up for this lab. All I have to do is just say OK. And now when I go up inside of my installation for Server 2016 and I check my network connections, I will see that there are 2 network adapters available. So to see what network adapters we currently have available on any installation, we can get up to the network connections any number of different ways. I can go down here, I can right click, I can go to Open Network and Internet Settings. I can go over here to Local Server. I can wait for it to refresh. I can see that I have an adapter 1 and I have an adapter 2. I can get there that way. By clicking on the Start button, I can go to Control Panel. Up in here, I can look at Network and Internet. From here, I can click on where it says Change Adapter Settings. And now I can verify that I have my 2 adapters. Using Server Manager, I can click on either of my network adapters, and that will take me out to the network connections where I can verify that I have both network adapters available. So however you want to choose to get to verify that you have your 2 network adapters installed, you're free to use any method that you want. Once you have verified that you do have at least 2 network adapters for your NIC teaming, up inside of Server Manager, underneath Local Server, in the right window pane, scroll on down to where it says NIC Teaming. Where it says Disabled, just double click it. In the next window, you're going to see over underneath where it says Adapters and Interfaces that you have 2 network adapters available. They are identical and they are both 1 gigabyte each. For NIC teaming, you can add up to 8 different adapters. In this example, we're only going to use 2. Now to do this, what I'm going to do is take my 2 available adapters, I'm going to hold down my Shift key, select both, then I'm going to right click. And from there I'm going to select the option underneath the context menu to add to a new team. On this next window, you'll see that we have the option to give this a team name, so I'm going to give this a user-friendly team name. Once I've done that, if I need to, I can view additional properties by going down here to the bottom and clicking on the down arrow. Now these additional properties you don't have to play with, you don't have to do anything with them. You can just go ahead and leave them be and they will be fine just using the default settings, but they are available if you do need to do so. All I have to do now is just click OK. Now you're going to have to give this a couple of minutes to refresh. I know it has a critical error, but that's just because it hasn't refreshed yet. Once it refreshes, both of these NICs will be shown as up and active. And if you look over here underneath the Teams window, you'll see that your new team is already in place. Now it can take up to 30 to 60 seconds for the refresh to take place to show that your network connections have now been joined into this single team. So do be patient. NIC teaming cannot be done remotely. You have to be physically on the machine on which you are creating the NIC team for. This is because the network adapter you were using to connect remotely with will no longer be available, and you will lose that connectivity once the team has been created. So the next thing we have to do now is find an available IP address to assign to the NIC team. To do this, I'm going to click on my Start button, and from here I'm going to find my Windows PowerShell in the Tile menu, and from here I'm just going to double click it, and at the prompt I'm just going to type in ipconfig/all. Now you'll notice that you're only going to see the NIC team in here. That is because the IP4 configuration capability has been removed for both of my network adapters. The only adapter now that has the ability to configure an IP4 address will be the NIC team adapter. My NIC team adapter has been assigned an IP address of 192.168.56.105. Now I can see that just by looking here at the IP4 address, and I can use this address, or I can come up with another IP address that is not in use currently on my network. I'm going to go ahead and choose to use this IP address. Let's go ahead and close out PowerShell, and we're going to return to our Server Manager. Now up here in Server Manager, I'm going to click on Local Servers one more time. Again, I'm going to go underneath Local Server, and in the right window pane, I'm going to go down to my sample NIC team adapter, and I'm just going to double click it. That's going to take me out to my network connections. Now again, I can look in here underneath properties for each one of these adapters, and you'll see that the IP4 is no longer checked. That's because it has been disabled while these two adapters are going to be part of the NIC team. Now over here on my NIC team adapter, I just right click, I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to configure this like I would any other adapter with an IP4 address. I'm going to just double click where it says Internet Protocol version 4, TCP IP version 4, and that brings up the property windows. Currently, my NIC team adapter is using DHCP to acquire an IP address, but it's a server, it's a domain controller, it's a DNS server, so it needs to be configured statically. So I'm going to go over here and configure it with the correct IP address that we discovered using the IP config. Now regardless if this was a physical server or a virtual server, if I was on a real working production network, I would probably have a default gateway that I would apply inside of the default gateway settings. But that's not the case since this is my lab environment. But you need to know that you would configure this network adapter with the same information for getting out of the network that you would for any network adapter on your network. Also, since this is a DNS server, I'm going to use the loopback address. Once I have it configured correctly, I'm going to go ahead and say OK. I'll say OK one more time. And now this server is configured for NIC teaming. We can go ahead and close out this window. And back at my local server, if I need to get rid of this particular NIC team, I can just go back underneath the right window pane, go to NIC teaming, and where it's enabled, all I have to do is just double click it. That takes me back out to my page where I have the teams listed. Where the teams are listed, I can just right click in here and I can delete that team. It'll ask me if I want to delete the team. I will confirm. And now once the team has been deleted, you'll notice that my two network adapters are no longer part of that team, but they are also not configured statically with an IP address. They are now picking up their information from DHCP, so you must go back into your network adapter for the server and configure it statically with the IP information that it had prior to being part of the NIC team. Most network adapters manufactured recently will be NIC team capable. Some network adapters, legacy types, will not be able to function inside of a NIC team. So you would have to replace that network adapter and then add the new network adapter to the NIC team for it to be part of that capability. Secondly, both of your network adapters should be rated for the same speed. If not, then you can have problems with network speed fluctuations on your network with that particular server. And lastly, remember that NIC teaming is for fault tolerance or redundancy. It is not for load balancing. Load balancing is something completely different. So if one network adapter goes out, I have a second one that is part of the team that will still be available. And so that's going to conclude this short video presentation on how we go about configuring NIC teaming on a Windows server. So if you have any questions or concerns about any of the information that was presented to you in either the lab or the video, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact your instructor, and I'll see you in my next video.